Welcome to the University of Findlay Art and Culture Show. I am Sharinda, your host, and today we are honored to have on set with us Miss Michaela Paige. Welcome.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
It's wonderful having you here. And Michaela, you have had quite the interesting life thus far, and the adventures continue.
Absolutely. You know, it's one of those things where I like to say we make plans and the universe laughs. And in my young life, I feel like it's been very full and very vibrant, and I can't wait to see what's next.
And you are a very vibrant individual. I've had the honor of watching you perform live, both in New York City as well as down south, and you have the gift of being able to give the attendees permission to embrace you where they're at. And there's not a lot of artists that can easily take a stage and make everyone in the audience feel like they're in that person's living room. And you do that. That is such a special gift you have. And that comes with practice. You have been performing live for many years.
Yeah, I started a long time ago. I started 16 years ago. I took the stage the first time when I was 8 years old, and there's something about the importance of telling a story. There's something about the responsibility of not only telling my story, but helping other people to tell their own.
And I think that that's what people pick up on when they're in your audience, that they have something they can learn from you and they can embrace with you, but you also give the gift of, I want to listen to you and hear from you and learn from you. And so you do that through your talents vocally, as well as a lot of creativity and ingenuity behind the vocals. And with that, you have come up with a really, really special campaign.
Yes.
And that campaign is called the Be You campaign.
Yes. I believe that the difference between living and existing is purpose. And it took me until I was about 19 to understand that the most important person in my life was myself, and to start really living for that person fully. Because when I was 16, I was on The Voice. I placed in the top 12, and I was a little controversial. I had my hair in a mohawk, and
you rocked it.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it was adorable.
I surprisingly got a lot of backlash for that. That was anticipated. I believe in hope for the best, prepare for the worst. But a lot of, you're so pretty, why would you do that? And I love you, but your hair. And it was one of those things where I believed in that moment, taking the stage in front of millions of people, in that way, I had a responsibility to be that symbol of authenticity, to say, hey, why can't you if I can do it? And so still I was discovering and finding myself. And when I was not so long ago, I had realized that sharing my story was helping other people to share theirs. It became this kicking down the door of conversation, talking to people after shows and having them say, I was bullied too, I had this problem too, I had that problem too, I suffer from this. And realizing that there was something bigger than just the music. There was a purpose to awaken in other people this sense of who they were and this coming back to who they are. And so I started the Be You campaign.
We at the Be You campaign have a sign that symbolizes our strength and inspires us and others, and reminds us that it is okay to be you.
With my team, and with the intention of not only kicking down that door and getting people to communicate, getting people to normalize their life experiences, the crosses that they bear, but helping them to understand that that is part of life. It's not our identity, but it's what makes us who we are.
Very, very full of wisdom.
Thank you.
And I love that. So with the Be You campaign and with providing opportunities for people to be given permission, or finding a way for them to give themselves permission to recognize who they are, acknowledge that, and feel comfortable and feel safe. What exactly does the BU campaign do? So I know right now you're on a national tour, but what does that national tour look like? Do you work in high schools? Do you work on college campuses? Do you work in corporate? What does that look like?
Well, funny enough, when I started with middles and high schools, and then I branched out into colleges. So it's everything from middle school to colleges, focusing on the college campuses most, because that is such an age, speaking from personal experience with it not being so long ago, with being a college student myself, that is such a pivotal time in a student's life, because they're breaking away, they're breaking free from who they used to be, from the ties of home, and they're discovering all these things about who they are. And so it's a mix.
And finding their voice.
Absolutely. And in telling a story of who I am, and how to be yourself, and how to discover who you are, how could I do that without incorporating the things that I believe make me who I am, which is music? So when I was putting together this campaign, a lot of people said, well, you're either going to lecture or you're going to perform, right? You can't do both. I said, why not? Why can't we perform and have fun and celebrate who we are, but also leave this wisdom and this inspiration and let people walk away with something that they feel like they can use to turn over a new leaf and change their lives? So I'm doing a mix of a little bit of both, and something very, very tailored to, I love to create conversation. I love to talk to students. I love to talk to staff. I've been able to speak to staffs on different college campuses about how we can better tailor the way that we handle trusted information from students, trusted information from other people, and how we allow them to open up to us. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing. I love being able to see new towns. I love being able to meet new people. And a lot of the time, just by sharing my own personal experiences, which is how the campaign starts, I share being bullied, being depressed, going through a lot of these life-changing moments, a lot of these, the 5 top things that kids suffer with on college campuses, which is addiction, suicide, depression, anxiety, and eating disorders, all of which I have survived. And once you let them know, once you let other people know that you are real and you have a story, immediately I have been trusted with so much information from students that I've met just once, and it's humbling. It's humbling.
And with this, another portion of it is the social media side, in the fact that I know that when I've gone to your website, I've seen interviews and performance that has been pre-recorded and then played back through your YouTube channel, correct?
Correct, yes.
And so that is not used to call people out or to share, to expose them. That is used to celebrate them, correct?
Absolutely.
And that's what I've seen in the videos.
Yes.
Can you talk on that a little bit? Because I think that that's very, very beneficial, for some cathartic, and for some, I think that it's the beginning of their healing process. So share about that, please.
Well, I'm a big believer in the commonality of the first step is admitting something. It's accepting something and admitting you have a problem. So in healing, you can't heal unless you identify where the wound is. And so I like to say that the BU campaign and what I do is not for me, it's for others. And this is a place to put them on the pedestal, to let them celebrate who they are, to help them celebrate who they are, to let them know that, you know, let me reach out my hand to you because I get it, and let me help you step onto your pedestal, because so often we're so worried with social media that we are not enough. So we are comparing our brokenness, our behind the scenes, to somebody else's picture perfect life, to somebody else's highlight reel, when it's an unrealistic expectation of who we are supposed to be. And I love being able to share other people's stories. They come to me wanting to do that. We've created this journal that I love, and I started it. and I wrote my personal story as well as my advice and the things that I've learned, which is exactly what I do in the campaign. And I decided to make it a diary and let it travel to different people. So we did a music video for a song, which I'll talk about in a little while. We did a music video for a song called Fly. And it is the story that I wrote myself when I was young. And the woman who stars in the music video was the first person other than me to actually fill in this journal. And now this journal has been traveling to anybody who feels like they want to share their story with somebody that it can help. Because if we're not here to help other people discover who they are and to make them better for themselves and others, then I don't think we're doing our jobs right.
I totally agree with that. And I'm glad you brought up this song, Fly. I have seen that video. I've watched a lot of your videos. I'm a big fan. And that particular one touched my heart because you didn't go out and hire a company to do that song. You took and put into action what you're teaching the students about Be You, and you found a student population with wonderful talents, and they were the ones that star in it, that shoot it, that helped with the whole process. And I thought it was really special that at the beginning of that video you incorporate a slide stating none of this would be possible without the students from da-da-da, Hollywood, da-da-da. And I can't remember the rest of it. So let's shout out
Columbia College. They're in Burbank.
Yes.
They are the example of what I love about what I do. So saying that this campaign is about you is really saying, no, we want to give you the power. I was at Calabasas High School. Not only did the students come up and perform with me, but we also had students videotaping the seminar, and we included their videos on my pages. I did a cruise called Passport to Discovery, which is where the campaign was born. And it was all students and aspiring actors, singers, models, and dancers who were included in the video. Columbia College
that was so neat. That video is so neat. There, the little girl that can't reach to get into the screen, and then she drops below the screen, but you hear her still whispering into the mic. She's still self-pep talking, and she's going to do it, and then she figures out how to lower the camera so she can say, Be You. It's so awesome. And okay, back to Fly.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. I love that. I love that video because the idea of being yourself. I asked this group of girls, I said, what do you believe? Put an adjective there. Say, what do you believe being yourself is? So it was be creative, be aspiring.
Tenacious was one of the words they used.
And these imaginative just ideas of what being yourself encompasses for me was so special. And being able to see them get excited about being a part of something like that, that is what I love. I have performed with cellists and violinists and bands and singers and dancers at campuses all over the country because I want them to take something home with them and understand that this is tangibly not about me. But that Fly video for me was so special because it told my story. I shared my story, and they took my story and created this beautiful video. And
are you harmonizing with yourself in the video?
Yeah.
I thought you were, and that's just so beautiful also. Because I read the captions at the end, the role, and I was like, all vocals appeared to be you, so I thought you had probably done that.
And the song, something really special about that song was I had met, the way the campaign started, I'd met this girl, and she was like me, but her mom had come to me first. We were filming a music video for a song called One Kiss Away, also with the same group that did that inspirational Be You video. And her mom came up to me and said, pardon me, but when did you discover who you were? When did you feel comfortable in your own skin? And I said, that's a lifelong journey. And she started to cry. And I said, what's up? She goes, my daughter is severely bullied. And I had shared a little bit of my story, and I'd said, you know, I went through years of wanting to be invisible and all of these things, and finally I've started to discover, but I know that it's a lifelong process. And I met the whole family. But this mom said, my daughter has gone through these things. I said, where is she? We need to find her right now. I need to talk to her. I have to meet her. And so I met her, and when we looked at each other, I looked at her and I said, I was kind of told that you and I have a lot of things in common. I said, bullying is one of the worst things you can experience. And this girl started crying, fell into my arms, and we embraced.
She needed that shell to be broken by somebody besides mom.
Yeah, and
that cares, genuinely cares.
We walked away, and my manager Jeff said, I told him, I said, that's what I want to do. That's all I want to do for the rest of my life. And he looked at me, he said, then why don't we? And so I wrote this song with her in mind, but with the understanding that when I was 16, 15, 14, I laid in my room and I was so sad and I cried and I wanted to feel like I belonged. And I made this promise to myself that if I ever got any sort of platform, that I would do something for her. So that's what the song is about. It's for that audience. It's for the broken people. It's for all of us who feel like it's just too hard because we're not meant to navigate this life alone.
That's very true, and so many individuals have so many things that come against them with negative energy and with lies that even though you're the messenger and you don't want it to be about you, because of some of the things that you've accomplished at a young age, I truly believe that you have the voice to share this because they look at you as someone that's accomplished, that's close to their age, but when you get on that stage and perform with them, it's like the lies are being deflected. It's like the pain is rolling off because they're with someone that's saying you can do this and this is your truth. And to watch them literally blossom in front of our eyes. I was at one of the programs where a cellist was playing with you. And that cellist didn't know when they got up that morning that that was going to be a part of their life. But watching from the back of the auditorium, I watched, and I'm a cellist, so I watched the posture, I watched the face change, I watched this metamorphosis. And it wasn't because they didn't know how to play. It's because they were carrying weight of the world. And while they were there in response and in encouragement and with you, but then with the audience, all of a sudden they had a new message that they were receiving. And sometimes that's all it takes is that 3 to 5 minutes of a different part of the world giving us permission to heal, to love, to be loved, to forgive. So I think it's very cleansing what you do for people. And you're very accessible through your website and through your social media.
Absolutely.
But reality is, with as busy and hectic as your schedule is, you may not be able to be back in a live audience with some of these individuals within the next 2 to 3 years because of where life takes them and where you're going. But they have that moment for their memory for when it's difficult that they can look back and go, nope, I'm going to focus on this right now. Absolutely. And for others, it's the journal. And they're going to be able to go back to that journal and at some point go, I need to relearn this, or I'm so glad I learned that because I've learned this now. So it's still a part of a celebratory message that can continue to live.
Absolutely. We learn the same lessons over and over and over again. And it's like watering flowers. If you don't water, your flowers are going to die. But if it's always sunshiny, it's going to be a drought. There's going to be a drought. And so being able to give them not only permission to be vulnerable, permission to be honest with themselves, but giving them the reality that, you know, it's not sunshine and rainbows and flowers all the time, but as long as you're doing your best, then my grandfather always taught me that nobody can argue with the truth, and living your truth is no exception. So really watching the transformation just from giving them somebody or something. And I love being able to post positive messages and positive quotes, and all of my social media is geared around the intention, which we need to be living our lives with an intention, with a purpose, understanding our purpose, but with the intention of somebody somewhere needs to read this. And I get these moments where I will feel in my soul, immediately I'll say, there's somebody out there that needs to hear this, and I'll post something right away. It's incredible because it's something I never imagined, but it's something I always carried with me. So being able to do it and live it out and meet so many people and hear their stories and get pulled to the side and cry with people, not watch people cry or hold them when they cry, but cry with them. That's all we need. All we need is permission to feel.
And they say that this generation is the most connected generation, and yet feels the most disconnected emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so what better time than now to provide an opportunity for them to be able to engage and encompass and be encompassed.
And become uncomfortable. There's no growth without discomfort. So the ideas of, I love a few principles, the idea of looking in the mirror and truly looking at yourself and asking yourself if you're happy. The idea of grounding yourself. If you're in a place where you feel overwhelmed, grounding yourself, taking things one step at a time. All these things that we learn so often. Different principles of there's a book that I love. It's called The Four Agreements, and it's taught me so much that I already knew but had to relearn. The idea of strengthening, watering, and gardening and nourishing that inner voice, because the other ones don't stop. Ever. There will always be drama. There will always be conflict. High school never ends. But what you can shift is
unfortunately.
What you can shift is your perspective and your focus, and make your voice so loud that you can't hear anybody else. Because the moment that you take something personally, the moment that you take on somebody else's opinion is the moment that you allow yourself to agree with them, instead of saying, my favorite quote is, I'll joke around and say, I appreciate your wrong opinion, but, and carrying that confidence and carrying that presentness and that true sense of self, and understanding that process of being yourself, not only is it the hardest thing we will ever do, but it will take a lifetime, because the moment that you believe that you know everything about yourself,
you're getting comfortable, wham,
and you're changing, because my favorite color has changed, and my favorite band has changed, and my favorite styles have changed, and I went from wearing a mohawk to loving vintage and pinup styles, and we're constantly evolving. So we're always learning new things about ourselves if we allow ourselves. And that idea of disconnectivity and connectivity is so present because of how prevalent we've allowed social media to be. Instead of saying, okay, now I will disconnect, it's, I'm going to relax all day, but I'm going to spend 45 minutes of this hour and a half movie scrolling on Instagram and not paying attention to the world. So we're constantly bombarded with connectivity, instead of saying, I'm going to put this phone down and walk outside, or I'm going to put this phone down and I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to disconnect from the world and do something for myself. You should be doing a little something for yourself every single day. And finding the catharsis. For me, that was music. I like to say the campaign is for everybody else, but the music is me. The music was my therapy. So finding what it is.
Well, and on your website, you even say that the music has been your best friend. It has been your confidant. It has been many things that others would go, music, but that's the relationship you have with it.
Yeah. Well, what do you do to your best friend, or with your best friend, or a therapist, or a confidant? You pour your soul to them, and that's what music has been for me. Is I've been able to fill notebooks full of songs that are my own personal journal of my life and my pain and my struggles and my rejoicing and my celebrating, and everybody has this note that they were born to sing. We all come complete, but most of the time we haven't searched for what that is yet, or we're too busy doing what the rest of the world wants us to do, or trying to fit this mold that we're not really aware that this diamond exists in the mine. And I like to say, if you're not chasing your own dreams, you're helping somebody else fulfill theirs. And so really taking that power back and identifying what you love to do first and finding a way to shape your life around that, that's what's most important.
Wonderful. Wonderful words of wisdom. And let's go back to the voice for a minute.
Yes.
Because that was a part of your life that was pivotal, but it was a moment and it wasn't your entire life.
Absolutely.
So it's not your identity, but people can identify you because they saw you and followed you on The Voice.
Oh, yes.
So there are some differences there.
Yeah.
How fun was that?
Oh, it was amazing. My favorite was wardrobe. We would always do wardrobe, and
I bet that they loved working with you because you were willing to go out there, and that's so much fun for them.
Oh my gosh, first off, most of the time, if we would do wardrobe, they would take like their smoke break or like a lunch break in the middle of my session. They'd be like, "We need 3 outfits. You just pick them out."
They trusted you.
Yeah, they would pay for extra bags to come out full of. I had one time I flew out and I had 1 suitcase alone just for socks and shoes, and because I was wearing knee-high socks. All of my performances had knee-high socks, and we would put these outfits together. So most of the clothes from the show are actually clothes that were mine.
Yeah.
And we were unafraid. I was so unafraid to experiment and explore it and do what felt right. And that made it so much more fun.
Yeah, and they weren't worried about having to apologize or say, no, do you want to do the They were able to really invest in you too.
Absolutely.
And that boosted your confidence for the performance.
Oh, yes. And it was so crazy watching that world, seeing TV, reality TV, and meeting so many people. And I love to ask questions. So I'm sitting one day and getting my outfit tailored, and I'm talking to Kim, our seamstress, and I said, "Kim, let me ask you something." She goes, "Yeah." I was like, "What has been your favorite project to work on?" And she goes, "Well, I did the costuming for Back to the Future." I was like, "Oh,
wow,
my God." But to hear all of these stories that people told, and to open myself up and allow myself to be receptive to other people's experiences, and then understand.
And the networking.
Yeah, understanding and being present, understanding where I was.
Yeah.
I'm working with, Michael Jackson's backup singer and Janet Jackson's vocal coach, and all of these different people who have not only were in amazing places, but also went on to do even more amazing things. It was so humbling. And they used to get so mad at me because we would do interviews. And they'd be like, how are you feeling? I'm like, amazing. I'm here. They'd be,
we need more from you than that.
Well, what's going to happen if you go home? What happens if you lose this round? I go home, I'm 16, 17, I'm going to go home, back to life. I mean, aren't you going to be sad? Aren't you going to be devastated? I don't know about devastated. I mean, I'm going to be sad. It's going to stink to leave. There's a Starbucks bar here.
Yeah.
But they would get so upset because I would never say, "Oh, my life is over."
Yeah.
100,000 people auditioned. I'm here in the top 24, 64, 20, 12. How am I going to be upset about that? And Blake was amazing, and I went on to do...
Was he as tall as he looks?
He's 6'5", and I am 5'1".
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
And he used to say that with my platform shoes and my mohawk, I was almost the size of a regular person. But he's so fun. We did a show after The Voice wrapped our season. We did a show in Plant City where he actually called me on New Year's and invited me to open for him. It was 22,000 sold out with Hunter Hayes. Wow. Hunter Hayes opened for me. And
how awesome was that?
To grow a rapport with so many beautiful people that I still talk to.
That's awesome.
It was a pivotal moment because it was one of those things where you make a promise to yourself throughout your life. You make promises to yourself, and then you have to hold accountability afterwards and saying, okay, well, people remember the mohawk to this day. People go, "Oh my God, you were the girl with the mohawk from The Voice on Team Blake. I loved you." to know that I made an impact like that for being authentic is something that I'm forever grateful for.
Yes, you did yourself a huge favor doing that.
Surprisingly, without even thinking about it, I wasn't even like, this is a marketing tool or anything. I was like, this is awesome. I had just done a hair show for a Rojo in New York, and I put my hair up in a mohawk, and I was like, this is awesome. This is so different and new. And the salon that I've worked with since that is responsible for the mohawk, they've continued to shape my image, and as it's molded and grown. And so I've continued to say, what's next? What are we doing next? Let's continue to embrace this
journey.
This journey back to self.
Yeah, the adventure.
Yeah.
And so you were on there, but you've also been on another television show that people have followed, and that's TLC's I Am Jazz.
Correct.
And did your opportunity and invitation to that come after you were on The Voice, or about the same time?
It came afterwards. It came significantly afterwards.
Okay.
It was amazing because I had done a Pride event in close to my hometown, and she was part of the event, and we became friends, and we started to discuss how our platforms were the same. Her grandmother remembered meeting me in the bathroom somewhere and being starstruck over me, and I was amazed that she remembered that, because I absolutely couldn't. But there was such a chemistry, and there was such a friendship that was built. And so months after our friendship grew, because I said, this woman is so influential, she's so inspiring, she's so amazing in what she does and in her sense of self. And months later, the producers had called me and they said, we want to incorporate you in the show. How do you feel? I was like, I absolutely would love that, but I want you to understand that that's not my intention. They're like, we know that's why we want you to be part of it. Because I can only imagine being such an influencer for so long and being such an advocate, it's got to be hard having to gauge who you trust and who you don't.
Well, and she has been on a journey that has been filled with many ups and downs and many challenges itself. So in order to trust the people that she's expanding her boundaries to include is very, I'm sure she's very cautious, and it has to be very, very careful, as does her family.
But it was amazing to be able to help her to achieve some things, help her to understand some things, and have her come to me with questions about certain things, help her to go on her first date with somebody of the same sex, and then to bring the campaign to the show, and to have this experience with her where we were nourishing each other, because I learned so much from her, and I continue to learn things from her. You know, the show is on for season 6, which I will be a part of, which I haven't really announced much, but I will be a part of this current season. And it's exciting to see how much she's grown, and just how much there is a sense in the air from everywhere of this authenticity and this defining who you are, because I think it's becoming more and more prevalent in our society, more than ever.
So you will be back on television a little bit. You're doing your music and have some amazing videos out with that, as well as singles and Spotify.
We are on all of the social media all of the streaming platforms, and we will be releasing an EP very soon of some more music.
Wonderful. And then you're also you continue the BU campaign.
Yes, I do.
And the BU is a B and a U?
It's a like BU. This? So basically, it means it's okay to be you.
All right.
And so that's just a call out to everybody to say.
Because that's in a lot of your pictures, that's in a lot of the promotional materials that I've seen, and so that makes sense now.
It's a nice little message to say, it's okay to be who you are. I'm living my truth, and I challenge you to do the same. So we want to create this movement where there's just this universal symbol of this is living your truth. This is being authentic and identifying that whole message just with one thing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And Thank you for inspiring me, as you always do.
Bye.
You have that gift, and I think it's because of your heart of purity. It comes from a pure place. So you're always so refreshing.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I look forward to seeing and not observing, but celebrating with you as you continue your career and your adventures in living. So I've been a big fan for quite a few years now.
Oh, you're warming my heart. You are warming my heart. I'd love nothing more.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you've been inspired today. And if you are interested in connecting with Michaela, you may do so on all of the social media, but she is at michaelapaige.com. That is her website. We invite you to do so because some of you may have a story that needs to be discussed or shared, and that is why she's here today. So thank you, and until next time, be well.